Well, hello, Martha, and welcome to the podcast to sit with me. Thank you so much for taking a seat with me. I am honored to have you as my first guest. I really am. I really, really
I'm
am.
honored to be your first guest.
As soon as we met, when was that? Last week, 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, we're going to talk about the panels that you moderated. But as soon as I heard those questions, girl, I was like, I need to pick her brain. I need to talk to her
Oh my
like one
goodness.
on one because your questions were so thoughtful and research and just such. I mean, even your guests were like, okay, like I don't know if you noticed that, but even your guests were like, who's want to go first? Because I did not expect that question. Like it was
Yeah,
just.
yeah,
But
I
speaking of
appreciate
which, I'm just gonna give a little introduction for my first guest, Martha Sambe. So Martha, you are from the great country of Nigeria. You were raised in Kaduna, Kagero. Am I saying that
Yes, so I
correctly?
lived there with my mother briefly, but I was raised in different places, but yeah, I started out there.
Okay, you were raised in
Oh my
Nigeria at
goodness, you
least.
went deep, girl.
Baby girl, it's serious. I'm not, I'm just ready for this. So you
Oh
were
my
raised in
goodness.
in Nigeria, at least. You're a
Yes.
beautiful Nigerian.
Yeah.
You have what I consider a big family, and I read in one of your article that you're like, oh no, it's not that big. I'm like, as an only child, three siblings, I think all sisters. I'm not gonna go into
Mm-hmm.
details, but I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
like that's a lot. So you were raised in Nigeria. You went to a all girl school, and I'm saying all of the detail that I'm saying now is because we're gonna kind of bounce
Talk
back to
about,
that,
oh my
talk about it.
goodness.
It's
Okay, I'm
serious.
so excited for this.
It's serious
Okay,
business,
go for it, go for it.
and you are what I. This is my description of you. You are a writer, researcher, spiritual practitioner, which we will need to talk about that. Moderator, speaker, strategist, editor. Did I miss anything? All around
Um,
beautiful person,
Thank you,
obviously, but
thank
you know.
you, thank you. These days I feel like I'm also a singer. Um, yeah,
Ooh,
yeah, and I'm
okay,
owning it because I've always loved to sing.
okay.
And since I've been in Hamburg, I've participated with two choirs, and I really had the time of my life. And I was just singing right before we got on this call.
What
And,
kind
I was
of,
singing a
what
song I
kind
love so
of,
much, and that's how I prepped for this, to get into
yeah,
that mind
in your
space where I
zone?
have like a confidence boost. So I did something I felt I was good at to give me that boost. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Singer.
What kind of repertoire, as we say in French? What kind of,
Oh my goodness. So I, I with my music taste is really broad. But I was just listening to Yeba. I was listening to Evergreen. That song takes me to the heavens. Um, but I started my week listening to Rick Ross, which took me down a jazz rabbit hole, and I've been listening to this one song on repeat the entire week. It's called Heather by someone Cobhams, and it's just amazing. So like
kind
I,
of everywhere? Just what gets you,
everywhere, and there's
okay,
a lot of Nigerian music in there because Nigerian pop is out
absolute
of the world
banger.
and doing
Yeah,
amazing. So yeah, yeah,
absolutely. I
a
was
little bit of
blessed
everything.
enough to hear my mother loved. I mean, I come from a family of artists. I say that every Caribbean is an artist. We all
Yeah.
you hear music. Someone in your family plays music at every and we are. I was blessed enough to hear music from also the west,
Uh-huh.
east, west coast of Africa,
Uh-huh.
and I'm rediscovering it now, and I'm like,
Mhm, mhm,
okay.
mhm, mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
drums.
yeah,
Okay, but
yeah.
if I want to hire you for a concert, what type of what
Ah,
would be your first song as an
what would be my
introduction
first song?
of your set?
Oh, sweet Lord. I
I
mean,
know.
I'm not, yeah, this is deep. You mean, like from all of the songs out there in the world right now, or a sort of like a genre that I would sing, or like.
Exactly. Like what kind of genre would you
Okay,
sing?
okay. So it would be very blues. I'm a
Ooh.
very blue person. So like, blues, jazz, something slow and mellow.
Okay.
because like when I'm not out in the world doing all of that shit, that's really
You're
my
like,
vibe, you
mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
No, I see it.
love,
I see
and
it.
I was listening to this song on repeat all week because it's really, it fit the mood I was in. I was telling you before we got on that I had a really slow week. So it fit that
Mm.
slowness, and I was like, oh, I was getting my life, you know?
Yeah.
I was
It
slow,
was
but
filling your spirit to hear it.
yeah,
No,
it was
yeah.
making me sit in that slowness and not feel the need to rush. And so, yeah, it would be something blues, jazz. Um,
Interesting. You should have said that. There was a whole stage of African Books Festival. Remember that? You could
I
there was a big ass
do,
stage
I
on which you
do.
could have maybe possibly sing. Speaking of which, this is how we
I
met.
I feel like we're not there yet. Or maybe
Next year
one
if they
of
ask me,
exactly, maybe
next
one of
year
these
if they ask
festivals.
me, do I know a a performer?
You know what's funny? The guy who did the concert that Friday night was
Yes.
actually leading the workshop I sang at 2 weeks prior.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I see the vibe, kind of like neo
yeah,
blues,
yeah,
neo
yeah,
soul,
yeah, yeah. That was that.
that
Yeah,
kind of
it was
vibe.
really cool.
Speaking of which, this is how we met. The African
Hmm.
Book Festival,
Yeah.
which was last weekend. What is time? I never know what is time, but we met at the
No,
African Book
it's
Festival,
going to be
which
2 weekends ago this weekend.
just two? Okay.
Just two, my love. Just two. It feels like several lifetimes have happened since then, but okay.
And the African Book Festival is an African Book Festival. It is
Okay.
centered around African literatures every
Yeah.
year. It was my first year
It was
attending
my
to
first year
the.
too.
It was their fourth edition, but their first queer edition, and it was my very first year. I just saw the flyer and I was like, okay,
I mean, what
I'm
a
gonna
time
go.
for us to be introduced to the festival, no? It's
I
like,
mean,
oh, the queer edition. Yeah, yeah. It was exciting.
so yeah, this is how we met, and you were a fantastic moderator.
Thank you.
You moderated two beautiful panels, one on self-love and body revolution with
Hmm.
Meka Jamila Sullivan,
Sullivan, yeah.
Kevin
Machiro,
Mwachiro,
yeah.
sorry, and Kim.
Kim. I don't know how to say Kim's last name.
I think it's Vogel, if you
Vogel,
say it
yeah.
in
Yeah,
German.
because it's like the V and the W's are changed. Yeah.
Yes, welcome to
Yeah.
Germany. So
Yeah.
you moderated that panel, and you
Yeah.
moderated also another panel
Oh, yeah.
with the beautiful, the amazing Francesca
Yeah.
and Kanisa. I'm saying her name
And
wrong every single
Lisa.
time.
And Lisa.
It was more on girl love story, more
Yeah.
on that side. It was a very emotional panel. Everyone cried. The
Yeah,
guests,
that I
everyone
did
cried.
not intend for that panel to go the way it did, but I kind of was
That's
really
your
happy that it
effect, your
did.
questions, your
Oh, thank
leading,
you,
your,
thank
yeah.
you. It's like, okay, I didn't think this was gonna happen, but nice surprise there. Yeah.
Yes, no, it was absolutely fantastic. And again, like your questions, and that's for my personal knowledge. But how do you, first of all, how do you get to moderating two panel, and what do you get out of those two experiences, those two big conversation with like authors?
Okay. So I worked with what's the word they used? The curator
Mm-hmm.
for this year's festival last year on a project about queer archiving and archiving language around queer language from Nigeria,
Mm.
basically. And so she hears I'm in Hamburg, and she reaches out to ask if I would be willing to moderate a panel at the festival. And then one panel became two, and I'm like, okay, okay, I'm
Something is
not
going
mad
up.
about this.
What are you trying to do here? What's the thing?
One panel became two, and I mean, what I got out of it was the opportunity to read these books that were. I read 5 books in total for the panels, and when I read Kanisa's book first, traveling while
Black and
Black
lesbian,
and
yeah.
lesbian,
I have it.
and
Let me do, because I bought almost all of them,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah,
Here it
yeah,
is. It's
yeah.
that one.
Traveling while Black and
Self-published.
lesbian.
Self-published.
Self-published, and I remember I was I came out of a relationship just last year, and a lot of the themes that, she talks about in the book were, things that affected me. And, outside of that, it was also quite interesting to travel through the world with her.
Through her, yeah.
She went from living in South Africa, in a small village in South Africa, to living in South Korea. And as someone who always had, that spirit of wanderlust, and I almost really lost it in the course of my life, it was really sweet and, just mind opening in a beautiful way to read the experiences of another Black queer woman traveling through the world. And so, yeah, the opportunity to moderate these panels allowed me to, read amazing books. Mecca's book,
It's my next read. Don't spoil. It's my next
I'm
read.
not gonna spoil it, but Mecca's book, I think was the second one I read, which took me nearly a month to finish because it was very raw and emotional. Yeah. I'm so glad you have all of the books.
Baby, I have them all.
I'm looking at my copy, which she signed.
Of course, and I'm waiting for you to say Francesca because
we're getting there. We're getting there. So, Mecca's book was the second one I read, and I remember it was so hard for me to read because I grew up as a fat kid, and it follows the life of this fat kid in Harlem in the 80s in the 80s, 90s, and into her teenage years. And I remember it was just really jarring to read about the things she was experiencing and realize that these were the things I experienced as a fat child. And so that's why it took me so long. But it was also so useful because it validated the child I was. Up until that point, I did not realize that I was moving around with this piece of me that felt invalidated because I was the only kid who was big in my family. And so there was really no one to share those experiences with of, bullying because I was a fat child, or even the comments family members made and the ones I got from outside. So it was really hard, but like the way Mecca writes this book, this character goes through a lot of things that affirmed my existence, and it was hard to get through, but it was also really necessary. Because it healed aspects of me. And when I met her, I almost started crying. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just meeting this person. I'm not gonna cry. But so yeah, it was exciting to read these books, and then Francesca's book, which is really sweet, because it talks about food. Yes.
Such a beautiful cover.
Yes. I mean, yeah. And I remember, like, imagine, getting the backstory, for instance, for the cover of the book, because outside of the panels, we had conversations about the book and, how she settled on the book cover. And it was really just, it was almost, I had to be out of body for a while, but also try as much as possible to be present because I'm like, what rare universe did I land in that I get to read books that really moved me and then like within a matter of weeks get a chance to talk to the author.
That was such a blessing to me, to meet the author and like hear them talk, just hear them talk in general, but about the book, I'm like, what a blessing.
Yeah, and I've been a reader since I was, before I even became 10, but I think maybe since I was 7. And so I've always loved books. Like, books have been some of my consistent relationships, or my most consistent relationship has been with reading generally. And so, like, moving from being that child who really loved to get lost in books to wanting to write books and then having the opportunity to meet people and talk to people who have done so and done so beautifully, was like, oh wow, what a fucking blessing.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
No, it was now I'm sad that I read the books after because I would like to meet them again and to ask them
again. And
why,
you have questions, don't you?
Now
I
have
know.
questions.
Yeah,
now I have so many freaking I have questions from Francesca. I
so
have
imagine you
from
get the opportunity again to ask them those questions. Like, whoa, what a life.
What a blessing, what a blessing. It was just, and something that you said, I remember, I don't know, maybe it was the first panel, the second panel, moderated by Melanie Judge. She was from South Africa, if I'm correct. And she says at the end that books are not mirrors, but a doorway to other worlds. And at first I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Even though sometimes I think I'm looking for mirrors in books, I guess maybe as like a,
Yeah.
I'm looking for a mirror, I'm looking for my story, but my story does not necessarily exist. But to see them more as doorways to other worlds, other people's ideas, other people's eyes, it's another way to conceptualize, reading instead of just looking for
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
my
it's,
own
I
story.
mean, and it's funny because it could even be a doorway that leads you back to yourself. For instance, with Mecca's book, it led me back to myself, but it was not, it wouldn't be how I would describe it. So if I was to create a doorway, for instance, that spoke to those exact same experiences that Mecca talks about in her
Yeah.
book, it would be entirely different, but they're all leading me back to something that
Yeah,
existed
to you,
within
to something that
me.
resonate within
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And so it's really profound. And this is why I revere books so much. And it's like, authors are,
Up
superhuman to
there.
me as
Yeah,
far as I'm
yeah.
concerned, because it's quite the undertaking to be committed to creating such doorways and paths
And
into
world and
worlds that don't
stories.
exist, worlds that exist that could be better, and like,
And
yeah,
find the words for that. I have a
find
big
the
problem
words
with
for it
finding the
in a
right
way
words.
that paints a
The picture that
specific
you
image.
have,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way Musi and Francesca, it's just in one sentence, they will paint a whole picture, a whole emotions in just like
And then
a
you
few
get it.
words.
You get it. Yeah.
And
You,
it
the
just you
reader,
see
also
it in your
get
mind,
it.
and it's just I'm fascinated. Same avid book reader, and you know what? The more I read, the less I want to write because I'm like, oh, I can do this. Okay, I see what like talent does for you. I don't have this. You know what? You write, I buy the book. You
Okay.
do the writing, I will buy the book because the more I read, the more I'm like, my God, I do not have the vocabulary to like paint such
Such
vivid
a vivid, yeah.
pictures. I have the picture, I have the vivid imagination, that's for sure. But to craft perfectly a story from start to, I mean, it's just the more I'm like, you know what? Just keep your little writings to yourself. Just keep your little thoughts to
Yeah,
yourself.
keep going. I will read all the
Just,
books. Yeah.
just if you would write a book, would it be like what kind of genre would it be? Like essays or
Yes, I'm
fiction?
currently an essay writer, and I am going back to edit what will be my first book. It's a memoir written in essays. Yeah. So I love essays, and and I'm writing this as letters, actually, and the format landed to me in a dream that I talk about in the introduction of the book. But because I was struggling last year a lot, and I needed to write, but well, I needed a witness, and I asked, Canisia and Francesca about witnesses. But I needed a witness to the struggles I was having, but the person who I wanted to be my witness was not there. And so I'm like, okay, well, since I'm alone now, what am I going to do? How am I going to move past through this? And then I get like a vision while I slept. It's like, right, bitch, write letters. I'm like,
Wow.
okay, I'm gonna write letters then. And then I
Okay, if you
started
say
writing.
so, I will. I
Yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah.
ask me
And
twice.
literally, like, if you say so, I'm gonna. And I was very hesitant about it at first, but when I really got into it, I found that it was an outlet. And I started writing it in my journal, like pen paper in my journal. I wasn't planning to make this into a book. But early this year, I was like, let me type this up. And then when I started to type it up, and I saw that, oh, I actually have really fantastic material
Did you
that.
talk to Musi? Did you talk to Musi who wrote those letters, End
Yes,
in Tears?
yes,
Because that's
yes,
kind of her story. She was like, she just
yes,
started during the pandemic. What a beautiful
yes,
person. What a beautiful book.
yes.
I finished it like
We,
yesterday.
I haven't read it. It was out. I wanted to get it after we talked, but they didn't have it
Just
anymore.
know that the title is accurate. But
I'm
she has
sure.
the same kind of story where she just started writing as a as an exutoire. I don't really know
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
French word,
Yeah,
but
she
and
told
then it
me.
ended
Yeah,
up
she
just
mentioned.
being.
Yeah, she mentioned, and then she submitted it to this competition, and she won. And it's like, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
fascinating because that was actually my question. Like, what does writing means to like? What does the art of writing means and represent to you? In,
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's
because you do
a.
that a lot. Let me, you know what? Let me give a little monologue so you can talk. Because you do that a lot. You have a blog,
I have
which
several.
I know. I found two and a half, I think. And I read it, and it was
Oh my
fascinating. Your
goodness.
writing is like hypnotizing and nourishing in a way that
Oh
you
my
don't want to
goodness.
stop reading, and it feels so
Oh
honest but
my
also
goodness.
thoughtful
Thank
and
you.
crafted. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
It's more than just your diary. I mean, it feels like it is your diary, but in a very crafted and honest way,
Yeah,
yet
thank you.
vulnerable. It does not
Thank
feel
you.
like you like you had it read by five other people and you thought
People.
about, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
still, you allow
Thank
yourself to be
you.
vulnerable, and so I wanted to know because we can trace your blog for years. You had some blogs for like years and years and years. So how does that? How did that arrive into your life? Were you always a writer? Did you become a writer? And what does that represent to you, like to yourself, in your process of
Oh,
life?
this is a huge question. Mm.
I am
Um,
taking it from your book. All right, all right. That's your fault. That's on you.
Thank you, thank you. I'll take a tea first. Oh gosh.
Take your time. Take your time.
Um, hmm. I want to say I've always been a writer. I was writing these letters that I was writing last year, and then I realized that the first writing I ever did really was a letter I wrote to my father when I was 7 or 8
You
years.
also wrote a letter to your father? Okay, okay. I
Yeah.
wrote mine when I was 20 years old because I was angry at him. But anyway, go
Yeah, I was
on.
angry at my mom, so I wrote a letter to my father.
Okay, I was angry at
And I
him, so
was
I wrote
and I
a
was eight
yeah.
years old. And I remember maybe it was before or after I did that, he had this old planners that had like the dates, the days of the year and what you could you could plan your days basically for a whole year. And I took that, and that was my first journal. And I started writing thoughts in it. And I don't know what happened to it because we moved around a little bit. But that was like, this was before I was 10. I was writing in that journal, and I was just scribbling thoughts and feelings more like. And that's why my writing has always felt like a diary, because that's really how I started writing. And I kind of stopped when I went to boarding school, which was a shit show. But I picked it back up in 2005 or six. I actually have the journal here somewhere, my journal from 2005.
My God,
So I,
you still have it? I
yeah,
love
yeah,
it. I
yeah, it's
love
here
it.
somewhere. Oh
Keep
yeah,
your journal, people. Like, write a journal and keep it. Keep
it's
it, keep it.
here.
Don't burn. Yeah.
See, look how busted it is, but yeah, it's here. My journal
It's
from like
this is
2005.
gold. Like this is
Yeah.
people need to write and keep it forever. Just don't ever burn anything. Don't ever throw anything. Archive, archive,
Yeah.
archive.
Now that I'm, even answering this question, I realize that my writing is an outlet for me for dealing with difficult and complicated feelings. Because I picked it back up in 2005 because I was thrown into a situation at school that was unprecedented for me, and I really didn't know how to deal with it, just like I was a few years prior when I was struggling with my mom at home and I wrote my father a letter. It's like this time was a different kind of struggle, and writing sort of helped me ground in myself and give a place where I could pour out all of the hurtful things I was carrying that I couldn't talk to people about because I didn't feel safe.
Yes.
And there was just, it felt like I was alone. And so, but when I wrote, it's not that I felt like someone saw me, but I was able to put it somewhere that I could,
And also
objectively.
maybe it helps it make sense because me I realize that even when I talk about my own struggle out loud, it's like I can see them outside of myself and it makes
Yes.
sense and
There's something really magical and therapeutic about that you're able to put all of those things out there somewhere, and
outside, just outside of yourself.
outside of yourself. If
Outside
you
of
feel
yourself.
lighter In my experience, I feel a lot lighter when I, write those feelings out. And, so yeah, it's primarily an outlet for me to deal through things that I otherwise would not be able to deal with. But I also have found it to be, with letters especially, I've also found it as a way to express my feelings. Again, feelings, but like, tell people how I feel about them, or tell people how I feel about a situation in a
Yes.
way that speaking it out doesn't necessarily do justice.
Yes.
I might speak well, but I don't think I'm a speaker. I believe I'm more of a writer than a speaker because, the things I will express to you in speaking will be so much more better
Yes.
expressed in writing and
Because I
perhaps
take
even
my
more
time to
profound
find the
because
right words.
I
I'm gonna look
so
for synonyms. I'm gonna look for the correct adverb, adjective. Like, yes, I see it.
it's deliberate for me. It's like it allows me the space to really sit in the feeling and that
Brave of you to sit in the feeling, though.
oh,
Not a lot of us can sit in the
I
feeling, so
mean,
brave.
that's what I think. I strongly believe this is what keeps my writing honest because I sit in the feelings, and maybe this is also why I'm an introvert. I sit in the feelings for a long time because I know that it's the only way I can get to the truth of anything.
Yes.
If I avoid the feelings, I'm inadvertently avoiding the truth, and I want to be
And
as
it will
truthful.
and will come back to you.
It will come back to me. It will
Everything
bite
that you
me in
try
the
to
ass.
avoid, the more you're trying to push it down, the more it's coming
Yeah,
back up like hard
yeah,
with a strength.
absolutely,
With a
absolutely. So,
strength. And I relate to that because I'm also someone who, if I see a wound, I mean, if I feel something, like I'm looking at it, like I'm digging and I'm looking at it
yeah.
and I'm trying my best
And it's
to.
brave because just like you said, not many people do that. And
But
I
for me,
had
it's
to
just so
learn the hard
necessary,
way.
though. It is
Yeah,
necessary to do
yeah.
that.
That's and this is what I'm trying to express. I learned the hard way that not a lot of people do that. Because I have always done that, I went out into the world treating everyone as though
Yes.
you did that. And then when I got burned several times, I'm like, oh, Martha,
Oh, we
no.
don't have the same.
No, no,
Look at
no,
what's
no, it's
hurting you.
just you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought we were
How
doing that.
silly of me.
Yes, yes.
How silly of me. Okay, I get it. Oh, we're not all doing this.
Because I
Yeah.
don't like things to fester. And it's like
No.
if I'm
No.
going through something, I remember for me it was the absence of my father. He's back now, but he was away. Well, he was out of my life for a very long time, and I was always looking at that wound and trying to be as honest as I
Yeah.
can about how does that make me feel? Why am I feeling so bad about it? And not avoiding the fact that I'm in pain because of that, And it's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
for me, I thought this is what we were doing, you guys, but apparently not.
No.
Apparently not. And it's so
No.
interesting that you picked the letters because yesterday I went back to the bookstore that is organizing the African Book Festival, Intercontinental, here in Berlin, and I just went to see like is everyone okay, etc. And we talked about the book from Musi and Francesca because in both books there's those letters, right? I mean,
Yes,
Musi is
there are
definitely
lessons.
just
Yes,
like
yes, yes, yes.
letters, but even in Francesca's book, right, there's a moment when she talks to Our Lady, there's a sense that it's, and all those letters that Tai
Ties,
sends to
ties to
her
Kennedy, her
sister
sister.
or twin, right? And it's very interesting. I'd love to hear a discussion about why are we using letters as a mean to communicate and to express in a book, like why did they choose letters to
Yeah,
convey.
yeah, so with Tai, she was trying to reach for a connection she had with a sibling that sort of fractured, and
But she didn't send them though.
she didn't send them, which was and I like that. I like the part that she didn't. I didn't really think about it this way, but I like the part that she didn't send it because when you think about it, this might sound very selfish. Sometimes expressing the feelings in a letter format is not necessarily for the other person's benefit. it's for your benefit, just like we talked about, the writing, the journaling helps you get stuff out. Now, whether you choose to send those or not, those are like, that's a secondary concern. Sending them is a secondary concern, but like as long as the feelings,
Is
the
out.
thoughts is out and you can pick it up and see it whenever you want, there's something very powerful about doing that. Being able to do that, and I think Tai tapped into that when she wrote those, like, and perhaps there was a lot. There might have been some fear that her sister wouldn't respond, because
Or
she had
judge her
called.
also,
Hmm?
or maybe judge her as well, because I
Judge her,
think there's
yeah,
also something about when you don't send them, when you don't write them with the intention of sending them, you're so much more honest. Because I think that if her real intention was to send them, there's a lot of things that
she would
she
have
would not
held
have said.
back. Yeah,
She would not
yeah,
have said,
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah. She would have
detailed, or
held
all
back.
the all things that
So
she's
in a
doing.
way, not sending the letters really ended up serving Tai because it kept her honest,
Yes,
and
open.
yeah,
Yes.
it kept her very honest. And I relate to that in that last year when I started writing the letters, the letters are mostly addressed to my best friend. So when I started writing letters to other people. And then I realized, Martha, you're just bullshitting about these issues to these people. These are not the people you want to be in conversation with about, what you're going through. Write to the person with whom
Who you
you
want to
want
write
to
to?
be in
Yeah.
conversation, with
Yeah.
whom you must be your honest self. And then I went back and I revisited the letters again, and I really started. That's when I really really started writing to my friend, and all of the feelings that I had been suppressing in the previous letters I had written, really came out.
Because you
And
felt.
because I felt safer. I was talking to my friend who wasn't there, but really in my mind, he was there because I was writing to him. Yeah, so it's the letter writing really is. I think it's like any other writing. It's an avenue to express things to people because human life is so complex, and I've been in conversation about the complexity of being a human. It's like there are so many feelings, there are so that are webbed
Yes, yes.
together that you might try to sort of untangle, and it's hard to explain just talking about it, for me anyway. It's hard to explain. Just I would rather write about it, and in writing about it I can make them connect in a way that the person I'm hopefully reaching out to sees what a complex mess is going on with my feelings, and perhaps is
Yes.
able to understand and sympathize, and really get the message I'm trying to send to them. And personally, this is why I really appreciate writing letters. It's like it allows you the space to really get into the heart of something that is important.
And it might even be easier because I feel like when you're writing a book, you don't know to who you're writing it, so you can get lost. But when you're writing a letter, you know to who you're writing, so it's
Yeah.
like I'm just
I
writing
know
to.
there are inside jokes in my letters to my friend,
Yeah.
because, and there are, and I feel like, they're not so inside joke when I, look at them, because anybody reading it would be able to get the joke, really. But, these were things that were personal between me and this person that we shared in our relationship. And so, writing to this person really allowed me to get into the depths of feelings and, all of the struggles that I was dealing with at that time. And because I know that he understood, this is my longest friendship, right? So like this person has seen me in all of my evolutions, and if there was anybody that would really understand where it hurt or where it felt good, he would be the person,
Yeah.
because he has consistently seen me through all of the changes that I've been through in my life, like for what, 13 years, 14 years maybe. So, yeah, it kept me honest. Writing to the person I really wanted to share all of these things to, kept me honest and allowed me really open up and touch on the things that
Yeah, and,
mattered.
and reach deeper level,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I wanted to read, to quote you, your articles
Holy
back,
shit.
because damn girl, there's a beautiful one of your more recent blog posts that is called Homecoming to Self. And at the end of this article, you said, I am home. I am home now, in my body, in my mind, and with myself. Can you expand on that feeling of feeling home within self? You wrote it, so I'm sorry, but like you wrote that.
Thank you for
So
for giving that back to me. It's the last essay I write in the book is an essay about home. It makes me realize that I've been thinking about home and being home for a while. What is homecoming? So what I've learned, for the longest time, it felt like I was looking for something outside of myself in the world. I looked for it in jobs. I looked for it in lovers, most particularly in lovers. I looked for it in friendships. I looked for it in cities, even like
in jobs, in
yeah,
accomplishment.
yeah, in accomplishments. And I woke last year. My relationship was ending. My best friend was missing from my life. I had a job that wasn't the most fulfilling, but it was really high level, you know? Um, but like, and so it's like, I had the things that I thought were going to fill me up and make me feel at home in this world. And I was losing some of them, but I had other really important ones. But I felt myself still grappling and reaching for something. Um,
Yeah.
this, homecoming to self was the realization that, oh, I wasn't looking for something outside of me. Or the thing I was looking for is not something outside. In the essay that I wrote last week, it's like it was a Martha shaped hole within my heart. Like I was looking for me to fill the void that I thought other people were going to fill, but it was really a void of my making or a void missing me. And I don't know. There are so many reasons why this is the case that I thought, it had to be out there in the world. And I really don't
Because
want to.
we are brainwashed.
We're women.
We're
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 taught that
programmed
our
like that.
lives
That
are for
everything is outside.
out there.
You need to be given to you. You don't. You're not.
You don't give
You're
yourself,
not
you don't
whole.
fill
You were
yourself up.
born
Yeah.
broken and hurt, and
Yeah.
you need to be
You
given.
get it. I'm so happy you get it because it's like, where do I even start explaining this from? But yeah, you get it. So it's like, oh.
All of that
You
was a
know,
lie.
oh.
The answers are within. What?
And
What?
it's a game changer. It's a game changer
Yes.
because it made me realize that I really don't give a fuck about being anything to anyone. Like I just want to be Martha. Like I give a fuck about the things that I give a fuck about because those are the things that concern me. Those are the things that I have interest in, and of course, I don't exist in isolation. I love the people in my life. I want all of the things, world peace. I want us to
Yes.
get along and all
And
of that,
the
and
world anger. Well, yeah, we
yes,
all want
but
that. Yeah.
I was just telling my friend last night, I'm just a girl. Like I'm just a girl.
Just a girly
And I'm
girl.
not I'm not I'm not trying to be it. I don't have anything to prove to anyone. I don't want to prove anything to anyone. I really woke up to the realization that my life is what I make it, and I want to have fun. I want to be
Oh, the
creative.
revolution of joy, of having
Yes.
fun.
Hello.
Just,
Hello.
no, it's
You
absolutely
know?
necessary.
Yes. I want to have fun. I want to be creative. I want to dance. I want to sing. I want to
You're
pursue my
speaking my
passions.
language. Yeah.
I want my energy and my life force to go into the things that actually truly matter to me, Martha, not the things that the world has taught me to care about so that I can appear as something that I am not. No, I'm not doing that anymore. So that, being home in myself was the awakening of, well, the realization that my life is really my life.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
you made
living
it whatever
for
you
anybody.
want. Yeah.
I'm not living it for anybody. I'm living it for myself. And if my life is my life, what can I change? What can I do to make it what I want it to be? And it's a huge ass responsibility, because I've never lived a life before, or maybe I have, I actually believe I have, but like I don't have recollections of how I made it, so it's like I'm learning to be human in this world, and I'm learning what it means to own my own humanity without someone externally having to say, "Oh, Martha, this is the script you have to follow now." It's like,
Yes.
okay, I don't want the script. How can I create my own
Figure
script?
it out on
What
my
can I,
own.
yeah, what can I do with that? And really, that's what coming back home to myself is like. I'm learning myself anew outside of what the world has taught me about myself, and I'm finding out that I love myself. You know, I'm
I am
finding out that
fantastic.
I'm actually a hoot. I'm a riot. Like
I am
I'm
fantastic, and
fantastic.
I say that not in a everything's perfect. Absolutely not. I
No,
can be
no, but it's
annoying,
like
stubborn, I can be picky, sometimes pessimistic. But even
all
in
of the
my
shit.
bad days, I am fantastic. With all my ecosystem, because my vision of self is that we are all like little ecosystem, little jungle. I don't know if you've
You're gonna
seen like
like.
those
I
like
have a line about that. Yeah, yeah.
biodome, like
hmm
those kind of
And we
bubbles.
can we can dance around each other's ecosystems, and we can go and take care of our little universes, and
But we're all
make
little ecosystems, and you need to explore that ecosystem, and there will be
you will
parts with a
find
lot
there's
of
always new
lights.
things to find. Like there's always new things to find about
Yes,
yourself, such that when you're fully, and this is the realization I had, such that when I'm fully invested in my life, I am never bored and not looking for people
I
to
am
fill me up.
entertaining.
Huh?
I entertain myself
I entertain
greatly.
myself, So all of these things that I was taught to look for outside of me because somehow I didn't find it, I'm finding out that it's a lie. I've really been self-sufficient. I know the
Yes,
best what I need at any given point in time.
yes.
I mean, it's great for someone to make me a tea when I want it, but I can very well, thankfully, damn well make my own tea. And like all of these things that were supposed to be outside of me to fill me up and make me feel complete. I
And
found out that yeah, no, it's an inner job.
And you know something that I'm seeing, I don't know, our generation and the generation younger, like the millennials, Gen Z,
hmm
etc. I'm seeing this obsession with the universe, the universe, the universe. And I mean, I'm very much a universe girl, but I feel like a lot of time we're talking about like signs. I need the universe to tell me. I need the universe to tell me. But I feel like it's another way for us to delegate
Give
a
up our
power that we
power.
have. Like, oh, I'm waiting for a sign to do that or to do that. I'm like, no, no, you take the step, and then the universe is like the wind under your wings. Like, and then it's
It
that
ushers you, it
that I
propels you
have
forward. Yeah.
over just those last month, because I'm hearing more and more, or signs from the universe, signs from the universe. I'm waiting for a signs or sign, and I'm like, you need to create. Sometimes you need to create the signs. For my part, no one told me to move to Berlin. The universe didn't put like a big ass sign on my way to work in December telling me to move to Berlin. I did that, and then the universe blessed me with meeting amazing people and having amazing opportunities. But I feel like even in we really, like you said, we really need to understand that we have the answers within ourselves. You know better than anyone else what you want and what you need. The universe cannot exactly tell you. The universe can help. The universe can send you a dream maybe, but don't wait. I don't know. I feel like there's a balance that
I
we
think
have
I
to
think that
find.
yeah, there is a
There
balance.
is
I
a
think
balance.
that
Even though I'm a universe girly, through and through, but there is a balance that I think we
I
need to
think the
find.
waiting for the universe to give signs actually comes from a place of helplessness and not knowing what the right next step to take is, and also fear of making mistakes. Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, so there's always that fear because I also really struggled with the idea of whether I wanted to move here or not. And there were so many reasons why I shouldn't. And they were also strong, those reasons, okay? They were all so fucking strong. I'm like, yeah, yeah, this is a good reason why I shouldn't make this move. And then, but I looked at all of the reasons why I should, and I love being attuned to my feelings because they are really they are really a key to understanding ourselves and being more in touch with ourselves.
And
And
the world, when you understand more yourself, you understand the world, you have more empathy
yeah,
for the world.
yeah,
Just, yeah.
yeah. So I start, with my feelings. I'm like, yeah, all of these reasons are true, but they're here, and that they are mental and they strike up all of the fear. But I know in my heart that this is what I want to do. It's there in my heart. This is what I want. And you know what? For the first time, I'm gonna suspend all logic. You know,
Yes. Oh,
because I take pride in being a
logic gang.
logist. Thank you very much. It's like I'm a
Yeah.
trained economist. And so logic is built into this.
One plus one equals two. I need, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you
Yes.
calculate the things. I'm like, no, okay, I'm gonna suspend logic and take,
Go with
and if
feeling,
I
yeah.
fall flat on my face, I know that something will come up. I don't have to know what is gonna come. And it's really also about faith.
Yes.
But and I love how this conversation is, flipping because it's really about faith. But much of the world is so faithless for so many reasons.
Talk about
Much
it.
of the world is faithless for so many reasons, and so when we are faithless, our fears have more of a control over us because we have nothing to fall back on, to
Absolutely.
support us. And for me, I fell back on my faith. I'm like, listen, if it doesn't work out the way I want it to, I
Something
have
else will.
faith that something is gonna. And I know that 3, 4 years ago, I would not have made this move because I was not in a place of faith. I was not operating from a place of faith, at that time. But so it's a lot of things that compound to make us fearful of taking the necessary steps and waiting for something else to show us a sign, waiting for the universe to show us a sign. And to be honest, the universe is also kind of benevolent in that sometimes it will slap the signs in your face, but it's still up to you to take
To
action.
And also the sign that you like, because it's also a way to stay in control, right? Because you're waiting for a special type of sign, don't you?
Yeah,
Maybe the universe is
yeah.
sending you a whole nother sign, but like you're like, no,
I
I
want
want that
this.
sign,
This
and
is
it's a
what I
way to
want,
try to
and it's
stay in
like, hey,
control. I want that exactly. And two things about what you said. The first thing, when it comes to being fearful of making the wrong decision, like, just this is my life. We're talking about my life. Like, I'm just. But since I'm here, I'm realizing that there is not you. If you're making a decision from your emotional, self, you will always make the right decision. There is no way that you make the wrong decision if it is,
it's
maybe
from the heart.
according
Yeah.
to the society metrics, it's a wrong decision because I don't
Hmm.
know, it's not
Hmm.
something that everybody does. But if that's something that you feel like doing, you need to trust
Yeah.
yourself. And we're going back to, to the faith part. And
Hmm.
also, when it comes to having faith, my grandmother, she's over 100 years old. She's fine.
Wow.
She's kicking it.
Wow.
um, I think that one of the biggest like secret for her longevity is her faith. She has an unshakable faith in God. Like, just, you cannot find more religious. And for her, it's very much like, it's like, no, he's there. So for her, she's very, he's a man, he's up there. She was born in the
It makes sense.
1920s, so that's very,
Yeah.
that's it's that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
Christianism, right?
And I
But
mean,
she's
it's
like, he's
valid for
here.
her. Yeah.
And I really believe that because of her faith and her true belief that God is there and he's taking care of everything and he's looking after you, and it allows her to really live a happy life. She had the
it
faith and
it
the friends.
emboldens you to know that you're surrounded.
Exactly.
And I love the practice of, and I've been talking about it, ancestral veneration and connection, because this is also an angle where I see this play out, is that I love knowing that I have spirits on the other side who are invested in my happy life and my well-being, because it emboldens me to go out into the world and pursue the things that are important to me,
Yes,
because I
that's
know
what
that I
faith
am
does.
supported. That's
Yes.
what faith does. It emboldens you. And again, fear is just so strong, and
Yes.
really it takes a strong faith to step out into the world and go after anything you want because there's fear everywhere.
We are fed
There's
fear.
we're
Fear
fed,
baiting
we're
is a real
fed
thing.
fear
Yeah.
everywhere
Yes.
in
Yes.
everything, from the littlest things to the biggest things, there's fear mongering everywhere. And I'm actually really certain that the role fear plays is that it keeps us stuck in loops that are toxic and don't move us forward as
Interesting.
individuals and as a human race. So the more of us who are fearful, the more of us will take actions based out of fear that end up keeping us repeating mistakes like genocides and killing people to get
Because
coal
we don't get
because
out of the fear
yes,
cycle, we
because we
just
cannot get out
fear,
of
react,
fear.
acting out
Yeah.
of fear,
Mm-hmm.
bad
We're acting
consequences.
out of fear. We're needing to survive. And we say that, oh, if I don't do this, I'm not going to survive. And, it keeps us dependent on this ugly system we've built where the most of us are oppressed people in the world. But, for me, faith has come to play such an important role in that it is really what has helped me liberate myself. And that liberation is really from fear than anything else. Because I think there are systems in the world, but those systems, I believe spiritually, are held by fear. And so once you liberate yourself from fear, you are automatically liberated from those systems. So I had to liberate myself. My faith has helped me, and it's an ongoing process, right? Has helped me largely liberate myself from fear. Fear that I'm not going to make it, fear that I'm not good enough, fear that there's no place for me in the
Yeah.
world, all of those fears that serve to keep me small and,
It's
doing the
crazy
right
because I'm
way.
going through the same thing. Like
Yeah,
this last few, since I moved here,
yeah,
I'm building that practice of talking to universe every
yeah,
morning and say, free me from fear and anxiety. Free me from fear and anxiety because I know that
yeah,
this is what's holding me back in
yeah,
so many areas of my
yeah,
life. And I think that it plays, I'm so happy that someone else, like that you say it too, because you
yeah,
also see the
yeah.
fact that fear and anxiety, all of this is at the core of
Yeah,
us
yeah, it's
not
at
being
the core, it's
happy.
at the core of the world, it's at the core of the world we've built.
Yes.
Scarcity mindset. Scarcity is fear, fear that there's not enough resources and some of us might die if we don't get those resources. And so what do? We start to kill each other so that we don't have to be the ones who die as a result of the scarcity. We would rather have all of it than share it with other people and ensure all of our survival. So it's really, this world runs on fear.
Fear of being
Um,
alone, so you accept anyone and
fear,
anything in your life,
fear
and you
of being
think that
alone, so
everyone
you
is
just
will be in a
open the door to your
relationship
life
except
for
you.
any riffraff, to come and do shit in your life. And like, okay. What happens when I don't want my life to be governed by fear anymore? And I love this Nigerian American writer, visionary founder that says that the universe does not like a void. And so when you start to trade in your
Yeah.
fear, something has to come to take its place. And for me, it was faith. It's like I traded in my fear for faith that, you know what, I know that God's got me. I know that, I have spiritual support. And
Inspiring. I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to like build that relationship with
it's
universe
a
and be like,
process. It's a process,
it
but
got me.
I love that we've had this conversation because it tells me that you're far along.
But to
you're
be fair, the
building.
thing is, here's where I'm playing my own self because time and time again, the universe has been showing me, like, girl, I got you. Like, I've never, like every time, and I say it all the time, and I'm having chills. I'm the result of my grandmother's prayer. So as much as I have a difficult relationship with Christianity and whatever,
Same.
still, like she prayed every single day before I was even born for me. To this day, this woman prays for me, and I'm sure that there is something out there that got me. Like, I tell my life, and I'm like, my God, the universe really, like, you are there. Sometimes I doubt you, but you know,
Yeah.
you are
And so
there.
those moments add up. Those moments add up such that when it's now going to be more the periods where you forget that, there's something out there, at those times it's like, oops, I'm forgetting. Then
I
you go
almost
back to,
forget. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, I just forgot that, there's a God, or, that I'm taking care of. And it's like, okay, then you go back, because you get to a point where you're now always living from that place of remembrance that, oh, there's something really out there taking care of me. And sometimes you will forget when some things happen. I feel like I'm finally fully there, where it's like something bad happens. I'm almost tempted to forget that God has always taken care of me. But I've gotten so good at catching myself. It's like, oh, there's that fear
That's what
again.
I'm trying
You
to
know?
do because I'm like,
Yeah.
Solen, you have countless of like examples
Yes.
that the
At this point, I
universe
cannot even deny it. Yeah,
got
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
there's something, so I don't know what that, I mean, it's probably anxiety and my own insecurities, but it's like, but will you be there that time though? Will you be there that time? Even though the universe was there time and time again. It's like those videos of I mean, it's not a video, it's an exercise, free fall, where you fall and people let people catch you.
Yeah.
But it's like, will you be there that time though? You were there
Yeah.
all the other time, but I'm trying to be like, you know what? The universe is
Yeah, so
there.
it's
The universe was always
hello.
there, and you need to build faith and build faith and build the true belief
Yeah,
the
you froze
universe is
for a
there.
bit. Yeah. But I was gonna say, I think it's, how do I explain this? Um, when it's almost forgetting, when that happens, when that doubt comes into play, it's almost forgetting that, or no, rather, it's tapping into the illusion that we're separate from God. That's what I've found.
Yes, yes.
So what has really helped me ground in, to such a point where like I can even quickly catch myself when I'm in a moment of doubt, is I constantly remind myself that there's nothing about me that does not concern God.
Or that
It's
is
like
not God. God like, is not godlike. Like God is in everything. Universe
God
is
is
in
in
everything.
everything.
This
And
energy
how
is in everything.
how arrogant of me to assume that
You know
I'm separate
what?
from God. That,
How
how
dare
very
you? How
arrogant,
dare
how
you
me.
doubt?
Like, I've seen how magical and how beautiful, and I know from my personal experiences that God has always shown up. But then in this small pocket of experiences, I get so into my own humanity that I think that I'm so special that God
How
won't be there
dare
for that.
you
How
doubt
dare
me?
you?
That's true. You know what?
How
I
dare
should
you?
repeat that to myself. How
Yeah.
dare
How dare
you?
you, Martha?
How
How
dare
dare
you
you think
doubt
like,
yourself, doubt me,
yeah,
doubt the
how dare
universe, doubt
you?
all of that,
Yeah,
doubt
and
this
it's like,
energy?
okay, so then I have a good laugh about it. It's like, oh, look at old habits trying to come up again.
But
And,
I'll
it's
fight you
like,
this time. I will fight you this time. This time you will not. You will not stay. No, that is interesting. I'm gonna try to
hmm,
to ask my to take that in and
yeah,
really
yeah.
lean in like in faith. It's everything happens for a reason because I am exactly like there in my journey of like trying to build like my faith and be like the universe got me. It's okay though.
It's okay.
Just this morning I
It's
was
okay.
having a moment. I was like, I don't know if it's gonna work out. I don't know how this is gonna turn out. And look at you talking to me about faith. I'm like, you see, universe,
Yeah.
everything
I'm
happens
happy. I'm
for.
happy because this has really given my life so much more meaning than, and I was talking just last night actually before I went to bed, and I was realizing that in my early 20s I had such a crisis of faith. The church was not doing it for me, and so I broke away from the church, and it caused some commotion in my family because my
Who would have
parents
thought?
do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my parents are devout Christians. But like I told my mom a couple of months ago, I've learned more about God from being outside of the church, such that I'm at a place in my life now where, I am healing the rift and the traumas that I experienced from the church, because I see how the church is also largely caught up in the game of fear that the whole world is playing. And what sucks about most of it is that a lot of people do not know that they're caught in a game basically where their fear is being used to control them and keep them acting in patterns and habits that contribute to keeping the world as it is. But I didn't learn all of this from being in the church. I had to sort of
Yeah.
separate from the church to see that, such that now I don't really have any beef with the church anymore. But I just know that that's not what I'm gonna, that's not what I'm willing to
To
part.
each their own. To
Yeah, to each their
each
own,
their
absolutely.
own.
To each their own. But of course, I'm always praying and doing my own part, to ensure that people are divested from fear, basically.
It's fear. It's
It's
fear. As long
fear.
as it's fear based,
Yeah,
it's
it's fear,
not good.
and to also come to a point of realization that God cannot only be found in the church.
It's in
God is in
everything. It's in the
everything.
plant. It's in you. It's in your breath. It's in the food. It's in the fruit. It's in your banana. It's in
Precisely,
everything. It's in the sky. It's in.
precisely. And what is even more important for me is that as indigenous people, as Black people, this is what our ancestors knew about God. Not that they believed about God, they knew this about God. They knew, and it's called animism, right? That God is in
Right.
everything. God is in everything. So this idea that,
It exists outside yourself, above you.
above you within an institution that you pay tithes and taxes to and all of those things. It's I'm sorry, but
To
I
each their
question that.
own.
I question that because I've seen and I've experienced God in such profound depths and outside of the church. So but I'm willing to respect that people are on different points of
You
that
know,
journey.
I see my grandmother, and I mean, I think that one of her greatest regret is that I really did not follow on the church. Like I did it because I was supposed to, but like to her, I could have. For her, my ideal life would have been becoming a nun or teaching Bible study. Like, no, no, no. She loved that. Like, she loves God. You really, really. Um, and so we would get into those like insane arguments because I would come with my very rational and logical little black girl's brain being like, well, explain me that, you know? And but I have to acknowledge and to accept, now I see how crucial of a role it played, her faith a role, how her faith played a role in her life. And I think that again, that's one of the reasons why she lived that long and she went through all of these struggles and still came
Yeah,
out happy and
yeah.
still
I
came out,
appreciate you saying that.
you
Yeah.
know, like I
Yeah.
appreciate that. She needed that. I'm pretty sure that woman with the life that she had, she needed,
She needed the faith.
like she needed God in a very like white Christian way, honestly.
Mm,
You know, like she
mm,
couldn't have functioned with our God universe, the thing that we're
mm,
talking about, very
mm,
almost like EPDP, you know what I mean? Like she needed someone outside of herself that she truly believed would save her.
mm.
And I truly, now I'm like, you know what? I
Is it
understand.
And that's what faith
It
does,
worked. She had
That's
faith
the
in, yeah.
because I was watching something yesterday, this channel who was like, you're going to realize that you're the one who actually assigns power and significance to a lot of these things. So, it's like with ancestral connection like that, like for instance, if you don't practice it, it doesn't work for you. And it's just that simple. You could have, and you do have like 1,000,001 ancestors on the other side, possibly trying to reach you. But if you don't have the faith and open the
The
connection,
doorways,
the
the
doorways,
doorways.
nothing is going to happen. So in a way, it's like there are these spirits, and for better or good, for good or evil, actually, there are forces in the universe that are really waiting for us to open ourselves up and create a connection. Now, where it gets tricky is what forces are you connecting with, and what purpose are they helping you achieve?
What
Because
message do they have for you?
yeah, because for a lot of us, where we get it wrong is that we not even get it wrong. It might be deliberate because a lot of us want to connect with those forces, those powers that feed our soul and really feed it for all of the negative and, self-indulgent and, reasons that contribute to the chaos that the world is.
Yeah.
But the opposite is also true, that a lot of us are also capable and have opened up to forces outside of us that are for the good of us, and us collectively, us as
Yeah.
individuals and us collectively. And so it's like, what are you assigning meaning and significance to?
True.
What is your faith? Like, how is your faith working for you? Or
What are
how,
you
yeah,
paying attention
what are
to?
you
Like,
paying
what are you,
attention
yeah.
to? Pretty much. And yeah, it builds the life it creates the life you live eventually, or in the long run. So yeah,
Where you put your mind, where you put your attention is where
yeah,
your life goes.
goes,
And
yeah, where your
that's
life flows. Yeah, that's how your life
if you
flows.
focus on that, then you're going there. And you know what? I learned that in the most stupid way. I mean, I realized it in the most stupid way while riding my bike here in Berlin. Because at first I was like, oh, this is scary. And I realized that truly, when I was when I was focusing on the car overtaking me, I would naturally, you know, go
Yeah,
towards what
because your
scared me,
attention has shifted,
which
no?
is which is going towards the car. But then I was like, if I focus, just like the car is doing whatever the car is doing, the car knows not to freaking hit me, like that's the basic rule of good conduct. But if I
And
focus,
Germans are pretty good drivers, I
that's the
reckon.
thing. Also, that's why, because I will never drive a bike in the Caribbean. Are you crazy? Except if I want to die. If you see me on a bike in the Caribbean, it's because I want to die. I want to die. And thankfully, those years of me wanting to die are a little further behind me. So
Behind,
we've
hallelujah.
overpassed the wanted to die. So I'm never driving I'm never getting on a bike in the Caribbean. But here, I'm realizing, and it's really that moment. I was like, so then, if you focus on your little bike lane, you will not you will
You're
nothing.
fine. That's why
You're
the bike
fine.
lane is there.
Exactly. Like it is
Yeah,
clearly indicated, and the car will do what the car will do, and you will do what
absolutely.
you will do, and you will arrive to
Absolutely.
your destination. And
Absolutely.
it's in these little moments that I have life lessons. I'm like, God damn, yes.
The life lessons, what I've learned is that they come in the weirdest ways.
Right?
And you have to be paying attention. And that's one of the things I appreciate about being so invested in my life and, what is happening within my life. Because it's that level of attention that I've given to myself has allowed me to see the lessons in almost everything. I learned how to swim just last year in October. And I
Congrats.
remember, thank you. And I remember my first swimming lesson, my first swimming class. I really fought back tears because my swim coach told me something that was what I needed to hear in the context of the swimming class, but also in the context of my life at that point.
Ooh,
I'm like, hold on, hold on.
what are we
It
talking
hit me
about?
right here.
Therapist?
It hit me,
Therapist?
and I really, really, I had the goggles on, and so like you couldn't see that I was struggling with tears,
It's
but
water
it
from the
was
pool. It's water from the
very,
pool. I promise it's
yeah,
from, yeah.
but it was very visceral. I was like, why did I leave my house and pay all of this money to come and cry in the swimming pool with a
To
strange
be
man
hit
that I
like
don't
this in
know?
a swimming pool? Are you? Yeah. Yeah.
And it was one of those moments where I'm like, yeah, the universe is not gonna give you a break once you
No, and it's
once
again, it's a
once
way
you
to relinquish
commit.
control. I think the universe is
Yeah,
teaching, I mean, those
I
of us
think,
who need
yeah,
it, aka me,
yeah,
a way to
yeah.
relinquish control. And that's why the universe hit me in places and in ways that I don't even think. Like I will, because I'm
But
trying to
it's not for
control
nothing,
everything, right?
also.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
stay in control. And the universe is like, don't do that.
and I've realized that I've also had to be mindful of what I'm praying and asking for, because
Talk
I'm
about it.
realizing
Are
that,
we living the same life? Are
yeah,
we?
we are. Because it's like it's a commitment. I committed to living my most authentic life, and I committed to living in the truth of my being, whatever the cost. And so with that comes these what is it, these random events, these random life lessons, because
Yeah.
what making that commitment means is that the universe is going to hold me to account. When I'm trying to bullshit my way out of what I know I should be doing, The universe is going to hold me into account, and it has been doing that in the most interesting ways. I'm like, oh, I thought I could get away with that. It's like,
And
no,
no,
no, no, no,
no,
no,
no,
no,
no, no, no,
no. You
no.
said you wanted to live in truth,
And to accept that the truth, if you want to live in your truth and your authentic self, it means that you need to change and live into the unknown. Otherwise, you would have already been in your truth and your authentic self. So
Absolutely.
this all self, the new
Absolutely.
self,
Yeah.
will come in a completely different shape. You cannot control your
And you have to
new
be open to
self.
that.
And this is scary, and I don't like it because I like to stay in control.
But if you were having fun in your control center, you wouldn't have asked for newer
Right?
experiences. Yeah, so it's
Did
like,
the
you know
universe
what?
send you?
Yeah, always, always. Like, no, really, really, it's like just, close your eyes and be like Alice and just take a ride through the rabbit hole and make
But
it
yeah, okay.
make it
Yeah,
make it the best possible ride there ever was, because
yeah,
I strongly believe that that's really all we can do. We have this one life, and if you're trying to play it safe, you're gonna miss a lot of exciting adventures that will make for an incredible story when
yeah.
you're like 102, for instance, and you're talking to grandbabies or whoever, and it's like, oh, I did this and it was the time of my life. And you know those stories that you tell where there was that fear that it wasn't going to go the way you thought it was, but you stuck with it. And it's like when you're retelling those stories, like, oh, it almost had me, but I
Yeah.
made it.
I almost
This is what
stopped.
makes life juicy. Yeah,
And
so
or when something happened in a different, you didn't even think
you
that it
didn't
could
think
work
it.
that
Yeah,
way, but
yeah,
it worked and it's
yeah,
beautiful and it's
yeah.
no life.
That's yeah. So and all of those things can happen in our comfort zones, we call them, in these areas where, and there are comfort zones because we have the most control there. And that's why leaving them is so fucking scary, because when we leave those comfort zones, we leave the control or the illusion of control that we have, because really it's an illusion. When we leave those comfort zones, we leave the illusion of control that we have, and all of a sudden we have to adapt to new circumstances. And it's scary, but it's also in that arena where we're adapting to new things that we see the stuff we're made of. It's like you come in contact with a new Solen who's trying pink and doing all of the shit. You talked about perfumes in the last episode. I'm like, you know,
I smell
you know,
delicious. If only you knew.
exactly. So like you come in contact with
Yes.
parts of you that make you so excited to be alive. And is that not why we're here? To enjoy the fucking ride. And
Ah, Martha, Martha,
yeah.
Martha, Martha. Thank you, thanks the universe for putting me on for
Thank
putting us in the
you.
same room. Thank
Absolutely,
you, like,
absolutely,
for
absolutely.
whatever happened to put us in the same room and
Yeah,
to make us
absolutely. I
meet. And it's
appreciate
crazy
it.
because things like it's just because I picked up a freaking flyer going while I went to take a book in my library, and I just saw that things that I've never volunteered to anything.
Yeah.
I would have never done that because of fear, because of that, but I don't know anyone. I would have never done that. But I was like, okay. I went on the website to buy tickets. I saw they wanted volunteers.
Volunteers.
And it's just, things, everything was planned. This was planned. This was planned.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
like your
believe
words are
so.
just,
I believe so. When I was reflecting about the festival after I got back, it dawned on me, it's like, you know what? It feels like, all of the souls I interacted with were people I knew from a different time and space, and
are you
we agreed,
serious? Are you serious,
yeah,
Martha, right now?
yeah, and we
Because
agreed
I
to
went through
meet
the
there.
same thing. I felt like I knew people there like
Yeah.
from back then. So much so that I started speaking in French with some people because like, oh, I'm sorry. No, it's true that we're
No
not.
French? Yeah, it's like I thought. Yeah,
I
yeah,
swear there are like 4 or 5 people that it's crazy that you're saying that. I'm like,
yeah.
I've seen them before. I know them. Like,
Yeah.
why does it feel so familiar? Why do I
Because
feel
it
so good?
is. Because I truly believe it is. It's like
Crazy.
nothing is a coincidence. The universe is so intricately structured that Nothing is a coincidence, and it's only a coincidence because we're not paying attention to the signs that are telling us otherwise.
But
You
it's
know,
only when you let yourself glide on like those webs, that you encounter these. Because if you're always, like you were saying, in your logical mind, you logically, I
nah,
would
the
have not
logic,
picked up the flyer. Logically, I would have not volunteered. But I was like,
the
it's
logical
something that,
mind is boring.
talk about it. But it felt like something good to do, something right to do. And
Yes.
it's only when you let yourself glide that you end up in a room and you feel like, why do I feel like I know these people? Why does it feel so good to talk to you and Francesca and Ifaitu, sorry, and all the volunteers and Esther from my team? Like, it's just, why do I feel like I know these
And
people? It's,
it was so many rich conversations. I truly appreciate everyone I talked to because I realized
yes.
after I left that we were not just having conversations about the weather,
No,
it was
it was
so
real
many deep and important
conversations.
things. I
Yes.
talked to a 24-year-old who spent like half the year in on the continent of Africa last year and moving through different countries, and she's German. And it was so nice to, talk to someone who was traveling through the world at that age because I remember who I was when I was 24. I was traveling also, but like her travel seemed more immersive, and more like a cultural experience. I was traveling to study, which, also has some of
It's a
those good
different
parts.
motivation.
Was a different motivation, and I really appreciated hearing her talk because I was like, oh my god, look at you and all of the conclusions you've arrived at 24. For
Already.
me, I'm just arriving at this place, and it's like, oh, I can't wait to see what you do with your life, knowing
No,
all of the
it's
things
it's
that you
crazy.
know, and
It's
yeah,
crazy.
really deep and profound conversations. I'm like, oh, yeah,
The
these people I
conversation, I mean,
needed
like
to
with
meet.
with you when we were sitting outside, we had a little chat with
Yeah.
Kevin Wachiro. Oh my, I had
Oh
the
my
best call.
goodness.
I
Oh,
wish I
he's
could
such
just
a
talk to him
gentle
every week
spirit.
of my life.
Yeah,
We had
yeah.
conversations about this, of politics and blackness and whiteness and
Yeah.
queerness and just like just things, and it's just,
I enjoyed talking with him.
oh, I love him so much. Sia
Yeah.
as well. BC is like a phenomenon. Just like
Yeah,
BC is
yeah,
BC, and it's
yeah,
just that's what
yeah.
I'm living for. And me, I've always had trouble finding these people. Finding and you know what? I'm not gonna cry, but I'm realizing that I've been talking to universe and praying for the universe. I've been saying
And you're
something.
getting, yeah.
I'm Put me in the room that I'm supposed to be in. Make me meet the people that I'm supposed to meet. And I think that the African Book Festival was exactly that. I'm not
Mm.
gonna cry because I'm realizing it now, but I think that the African Book
It's
Festival
okay to cry. It's your podcast. You can do
is
whatever you
just
want.
it's true. It's true. But no, I think that it's exactly meeting when
Um,
you meet your people and you have
when
those
you meet your
conversations.
people, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I
Yeah.
felt a sense of fulfillment, being there and like meeting people. I just realized that I really was surrounded by my people. You really just nailed it on the head. It's like, oh my gosh, these are my people.
I can do that every day. That's
I
why
did
people are
not
like, "Oh
feel
my
the
God, you
need to
stay after your
perform.
shift?" I'm
Huh?
like, "Yeah, where else? This is
Yeah,
my
yeah, you
people.
betcha, yeah.
This is where else should I go?" Like even if it's work in between panels, I get to listen to panels and I get to talk to people
Yeah.
about like just my thoughts, and they're not looking at me weird. They're not
Weird.
telling me that it's too deep or that I'm too much. Oh, I'm staying.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
am staying here. Like
Yeah, that was my crowd. That was totally
I'm
my
meeting the
crowd.
people who are feeling of, those conversations that sometimes can be too much, or just sharing thoughts. What do
Hmm.
you think about that? What do you think about that? Like, what do you,
I
and
mean,
being
we talked about
open.
relationships. We talked about like,
Yes.
real stuff like relationships. It's like I don't even know you, but here's my
But
story anyway. And
also
people
in
were
such
exchanging.
a light way. Like I
Yeah,
didn't feel like
yeah.
I was in therapy when I was
No,
talking
no,
about
no,
that. It
no.
just felt like, oh, this is what
You
I
were
have on
hanging
my
out with
mind.
friends. Yeah, you were hanging with you were, and it's funny to even call them friends because we had just met, but like it really felt like this is what friendship is because a lot of
Yes.
those conversations were just easy. And just like you mentioned, I realized that for the longest time I lacked that, and I moved here from Nigeria, and I love Nigeria. I love Nigerians, but like we are very surface level people, such that I know that the conversations I've had, I couldn't have them with a lot of people that I
Preach.
was surrounded with by in Nigeria. And I
Yeah.
respect that. I don't even take that personally. But for me, it showed me that I was really not in the place that I wanted to be, because I would rather be with these people who are speaking openly and who are also not just listening and taking your information, but also sharing their own stories and experiences
A back and
in a way
forth.
that you all leave enriched. So it was really important to have those conversations, because it
And
really
in
made me
such a
yeah,
caring way, I felt
yeah,
okay
yeah,
opening about
yeah,
my life because I
yeah,
felt like he would have been received in a very caring way and not
yeah,
like over caring,
yeah,
like I'm your ally and I'm no, just in a very honest,
yeah,
no, I hear you, I
yeah,
listen to you, I
yeah,
like, I see you in a
yeah.
very, like,
And how
I
strange is it that we're even having to celebrate this, because for me, it just shows you how crazy the world is, that this happened, in this one weekend, and we're talking about it in celebration of it. But like, I feel like this is what the world should be,
yeah,
this is how we could be with each other, actually really care and be there, and not take on people's burdens, because when I left, it's like I've probably forgotten a lot of those stories, but like I remember just feeling connected with individuals there. But like being present basically for
yes,
people, who just want to share, who just want someone to listen to them, and it takes nothing away from you. If anything, it
exactly.
gives you everything. It gave me a sense of belonging. It gave me a sense of connection, which we all want. And I went away feeling like I'd listened to people's stories and I'd shared stories, and I felt really filled, and from the inside out, like, oh my God, that was time well spent. That was really energy
Yes.
well spent, and I would do it again. So it
Oh,
was.
that's what I said yesterday. I was like, oh, I'm doing that again.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not getting rid of me. I'll be back because
Good
it
luck
was
getting rid
such,
of me.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, it was such a
absolutely.
beautiful space, and exactly like you said. And it's funny, like I'm happy that we're closing like the circle exactly like we started on the African Book Festival and we're ending on the on the African Book Festival.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you about the books just before we wrap up, or the authors. But yeah, it was that, like you said, it was that sense of honest community, and I did not feel like I was anyone else therapist, which sometimes when you are the person who's a good listener or when you are a thoughtful person, people tend to see
Yeah.
you immediately as a therapist, and like, I'm not, I just wanted to talk, I just wanted to share my point of view, hear what you had to say, and like kind of enrich and go into that moment, when you feel good in the conversation,
Mhm.
there's a back
Yeah.
and forth.
Yeah.
And it just felt like everyone was just open to that and caring, and it was a beautiful, like such a beautiful
Yeah.
experience. I'll be
Yeah.
back next year for sure.
Amen to
And
that.
yeah, when it comes to books, I wanted to ask you, so it's the only thing that I kind of ask you to prepare for this,
Yes. Okay.
for this podcast. I wanted
Mhm.
to ask you three books or authors whose books you would recommend, or art, or
Okay. These can be outside the books we've talked about, right?
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because I
absolutely,
recommend those books, the ones I read for the
yeah.
African Book Festival. But I recommend anything and everything by Akwaeke Emezi.
You have to be. You need to get out of my house. You need to get out of my house because what
That's
did I
their
start
first book.
yesterday?
Yeah.
What did I
That's
start
their first book.
yesterday?
Yeah, yeah. So that's their first book. I love that book. I read that book, or I listened to it on Audible, maybe in 2017.
Oh, for the listeners, I just show Freshwater from Akwai Emeti. Sorry, I
Yeah,
forgot that there's also
Freshwater
an
and
audio
Quaking
version.
Amazing. Sorry, I
Yeah,
keep forgetting that, if not everybody will listen to this
exactly.
video.
Me
Yeah, so
too.
Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi, but I recommend all of their books. Um, yeah, but that book, whew, okay. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, my favorite book is like The Death of Vivek Oji.
Oh yeah,
Ooh,
yeah,
it
yeah.
stuck with me, so I know that
I'm
I'm gonna love their
like,
book.
wait,
I
wait,
know
wait.
it.
How dare you kill Vivek Oji? And it's like it's on the name.
Yeah, like
That
no
Vivek
surprise.
Oji
Yes,
died.
was I
But I'm
crying?
like,
Yes.
how dare you? How
But I
dare
found it
you
so
not?
beautiful. You know what? It was, I mean, the ending. I don't want to go back there, please. But it was also such a celebration of life. The way Vivek was living their life. I don't know. I
Yeah.
felt it was sad and
Vivek was fearless in
happy.
that
Just
way.
it
Yeah.
just make me
Vivek was
like love
surrounded with
life.
community
Loved it.
that loved him, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Akwaeke
Okay,
Mezi.
Maisie.
Yes.
Let me see. Who else do I want to recommend? I have three, right?
Yes. Or
Um,
less. I mean, you can three.
I
Yeah.
want to recommend Aftershocks. Um, Aftershocks by Nadia Owusu. Let me see if I can. Whoops! I'm destroying stuff in my room, but that's fine. Oh,
Aftershocks.
this
Nadia.
the yeah by Nadia Owusu. I believe that's a Ghanaian name. It's a memoir. Yeah, a memoir. It's a memoir, and I find that in writing a memoir, I've read it only once, like 2 years ago, but like it still lives fresh in my mind because I love the way she wrote about her life, and her experiences. It's such a beautifully told story, but I relate the most to the way she talks about mental health. Yeah, so Aftershocks
Okay.
we recommend. And the third one would
And
be Vagabonds by Elosa Osunde.
I wanted to take it at the library. I
Oh,
wanted to
you
take
should get into it. I
it.
love the way Elosa tells the stories of queer Nigerians. I love the way she narrates. It was just a book about queerness, and it was like
Yeah. I
just
remember
very
reading the
common.
first page and I was like, "Oh, you're coming home with
It
me
was
very
like, yeah, it was
soon."
like it wasn't something that was an anomaly.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lifestyle that was,
Frowned
based
upon
on
or anything
fear,
or
yeah,
abnormal. It was
yeah,
just
all of those
life. Just
things. No,
life. Just
it
life.
normalized just queer stories in Nigeria. I'm like, oh, how radical! I love this.
All
And so
right.
yeah, so those three books are what I'll recommend. I'm feeling generous. I feel like I want to add one more.
Please. Please.
Um, but who do I want to add? I think the one more I'm gonna actually to no one. I'll do one. I'll do one. The one more I want to add is Butter Honey Pig Bread. And by Francesca, we talked about it already. It was one of the books I read for the panels. I love how that story also told the story. How that book tells the story of a queer Nigerian, but I am really, I really have a soft spot for the mother of the twins, whose name I can never get right. And her story, which really is what gives rise to the story of the twins. I feel like she's the primary character in the book, and
You know what? I thought that too. And you know what?
yeah,
I had to
we
think
kind
back to
of
the
forget about her after a while and sort of zooming in on the relationship of the twins, but it all
yes.
started with her.
But you know
And
exactly, and it's so funny that you said that because I had to rethink to the panel and be like, did I? I mean, she said Thai, but I feel like the mother is actually the
the mother, I feel like was the piece that held the book together, which is funny because it was when I asked Francesca why she killed the mother's father that the tears started on the panel. So I have a very soft spot for the mother in that book, and I really
yeah.
appreciated what Francesca did with her story. I wished for a different ending, but
Don't we all? Don't we
it is
all?
what it is. But yeah, I feel very softly for that character, and I really love that story as well. Yeah, so those books.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much for everything.
Thank
It
you.
was
This
so
was so
great to have
exciting
you.
to do. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for coming, for your honesty. I mean, I ended up having just 50%, not less than 50% of my points, but it's okay because the conversation that we had was just easy and flowing, and it's just your words are just. And my next question was, I mean, my conclusion question was like, when is the book coming out? But you answer that you're already working on a book, and I really can't wait to read your.
I'm working
words.
hard. I'm doing edits now, my own edits because I don't have a publisher yet. But I feel very complete in the chapters I have, such that I'm going back to sort of take some things out, and make it really capture what I want to express. So I am hoping that next year by African Book Festival Berlin, I might be there with a book. I will.
Oh, that
Let
would
me
be
say that in the affirmative.
amazing.
So yeah, that's really my dream, that I launch it at the African Book Festival, or have it there present at the African Book
Oh, that
Festival.
would be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
That would
yeah.
be amazing.
That's
Well,
the dream.
looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your
Absolutely.
honesty,
Thank
for your
you so
vulnerability.
much.
We stay in touch. You're not getting rid of me.
No, absolutely not. Are you kidding?
But
Oh no.
yeah, no. Thank you so much. I don't know what to say except thank you. It was. I'm so happy to have you as my first guest, and it's just talking to
Yeah.
you. It's like there's something happening in terms of. I mean, there's something happening. I don't know yet. I think it's gonna hit me when I will be
Yeah.
done. But there's
Yeah.
something happening in hearing your story, hearing your words. That feels like a doorway. Like we talk about
Yeah, like we talked
not
about.
so much a mirror, but also a doorway, and also a mirror in some way. I feel like there's a lot of
Similarities.
similarities
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
lives and in
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
like uh, period.
Mhm.
And yeah, thank you so much for
Thank you so
being
much for
there.
having me. It's my privilege. I love being your first guest. Good luck to
You did
everyone
that
helping this conversation.
because the bar is there. The
It's
bar
hot.
is there. I do not expect anything less than that. Anything less thoughtful, intelligent, eye-opening, thought-provoking. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you
This was
so
so
much.
fun. I know I don't have you on Instagram yet, so please send me your Instagram and social
Because
media
I
stuff.
I deleted the app, but I'm gonna send it to you anyway. It's not
Yes,
on my
and I know, but you still have an account there.
Yes, I'm
I
there.
will follow you and wait for when you come back. Yeah, you did mention that you were taking a break. That's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Mwah. Sending you
Mwah.
mucho
Have a
mucho love.
lovely day.
Bye
Bye.
bye.